guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my little advice column. I've never done one of these before and a lot of you guys wanted to see kind of a Q&A style video this week, but I feel like I've answered most of the questions that you guys have for me. So today I'm going to be answering some questions about you and your lives and trying to give you some advice. Disclaimer, I'm not a professional psychologist, psychiatrist, nutritionist, life coach, anything like that. So please take this advice with a grain of salt. More of like a big sister kind of thing. Follow at your own risk. I truly believe that you and your intuition and your gut has the best answer for you, but I also know it can be helpful to talk it out. So I asked on Instagram and in the community tab what you guys needed advice on, and you guys, as usual, were awesome and sent in so many awesome responses, and I'm gonna go through and answer as many as I can in the next like 20 to 30 minutes before I have to leave for my dentist appointment. Okay, crisscross applesauce, it's getting real. So here's the most commonly asked question by far. I got so many responses asking, when will I know I'm ready to have baby number 2? Obviously, this is something that I have some experience with and I can only speak for myself, but for me, it was more about knowing when I wasn't ready to have baby number 2. A lot of the responses said like, hey, I'm coming up on my baby's first birthday, or I feel a lot of pressure to have 2 under 2 and I'm not ready yet. And I want to let you know that that's okay. There is a ton of societal pressure to like have your kids close together. We hear all the time like, oh, I want to have them close together so they can be best friends or whatever. And honestly, siblings with any age gap can be best friends. My middle and younger brother are like this, and they're 7 years apart. So I think it's about knowing what's right for you and your family and paying attention to how you feel about it. And if you're feeling like panicky, not ready, kind of dreading it, pay attention to when that feeling starts to go away, because it may not be like hit by a lightning bolt, all of a sudden you have baby fever and you want number 2. Sometimes it has to be kind of a practical decision of like, when are we ready financially? What do I want the age gap to be between my kids? What's gonna work best for me with childcare? And definitely don't do it before you're ready. But if you start to feel like, okay, I'm actually feeling a lot less nervous about this now, then maybe reevaluate, talk to your partner. For me, I was like, we're not even gonna start talking about trying until Rowan's 2. I'm just not ready. I'm not gonna be able to handle it. And then right around, gosh, what was he, like 15, 16 months, all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, I'm not panicked about this anymore. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And then Matt and I started talking about it, and then the baby fever kicked in after we were starting to examine it as a possibility. So pay attention to when you're not ready, and also take into account your practical life situation and try to plan for the long-term happiness of your family. I personally wanted to pack the toddler years kind of all together. We only want 2, so this should be our last baby unless something drastic changes. But some people decide that they want their first to be in school before their second comes along, and that's another totally valid way to do it. So just examine what you want in that area. I also got a lot of questions about Matt and I's budgeting, and I do have a whole video on that. So instead of answering the question in depth, I'm just gonna link that video up here. So if you wanna know how we budget, how we save to buy a house, any of that stuff, there's a budgeting template attached to that video. That'll be up here. How do I set a boundary with my mother-in-law, especially in regards to my son and our parenting choices? I am lucky in this department that both of our families are very non-judgmental when it comes to our parenting choices, but of course, everybody's gonna have disagreements. And I think a lot of the time, it's not even that they disagree or that they think we should be doing something differently, but they just need to be helped to understand what we're doing. So for example, with us, with Rowan, we did baby-led weaning, and neither of our families had ever really heard of baby-led weaning before. And so I think helping to educate a little bit on like why you're doing it, what the guidelines are, how you know it's gonna be safe. It's kind of a good place to start if you're coming at it from kind of a neutral, like, I just don't understand this level. But if your mother-in-law in the situation is coming at you like, you need to be doing this differently, I don't like that you're doing this, then you don't owe her an explanation. And that's the hardest thing to remember, but you are your child's parent. She is not your child's parent. And at the end of the day, you do get to make the decisions. And obviously you want to have like a good relationship with your family. And I think oftentimes it can be helpful to just even say, hey, I notice we're disagreeing on this. I don't think either of us is really going to change our mind. So in order to protect our relationship, maybe this needs to be like a subject that we don't discuss, because I don't want it to get in the way of like our love for each other. But setting boundaries is hard, especially because everyone involved just wants the best for your kid. But at the end of the day, like I said, you are the parent, you do get to make the decisions, and you're the one that has to live with the decisions. You're the one that watches your child grow up and is responsible for how you raised them. So stand strong in that. Know that you do have the power in the situation, even if you sometimes don't feel like you do. And it can be easier to say no when you feel like you're doing it for the benefit of your child versus when you're just doing it for yourself. Like, take on that mama bear energy of like, I'm doing this for the good of my child. And when you need to set a boundary, you can kind of channel that, because I think a lot of times that gives us more strength than we would have saying no or setting a boundary for ourselves. Aw, we're getting married this June. Advice for our honeymoon and beginning of marriage. Congratulations! I'm so excited for you about your wedding and your marriage and your honeymoon, which hopefully will be super fun. As far as the honeymoon goes, I would say try to let your itinerary be like as loose as it can be, because you're probably going to get sidetracked with other things. It's definitely good to go in with an idea of what you want to do, but I think it can add a lot of stress on a relationship when you have a super packed itinerary and there's room for like, oh no, we missed our train, or like, what do you mean you want to sleep in and you're tired? Like, we have to go and, get to this tour or whatever. So that's like very small scale advice. But then you also asked about advice for marriage, and I think my number one tip is communicate, and focus on gratitude together. So Matt and I do like a debrief at the end of every day where we just talk about how our days went, where we are appreciative of what the other person did for us that day, or where we could have used a little bit more help. We try to use the passive voice in these conversations, because if you get blamey and you go like, you didn't take out the trash and that was really hard for me, the other person will get defensive usually. But if you say, it was really tough for me that the trash didn't get taken out before Rowan's lunch, and so I had no room to throw away XYZ, and you kind of go about it that way and don't actually blame the other person, I feel like that can be helpful. And then at the end of our discussion, we always say 3 things that we're grateful for that day. And those are like little things that are specific to that day. So instead of being like, I'm grateful for my family, my health, and my house, like that's kind of hopefully going to be the same every day. But we go for like, I was really thankful that you made me coffee this morning. I am super grateful that the sun came out this afternoon and I was able to take Rowan outside. And I think it helps keep you both in a positive mindset and helps you to enjoy the life that you're building together in the small moments. Hopefully that's helpful. This person said, I need help weighing the benefits and possible side effects of antidepressants while pregnant. So this could be a little controversial. Please remember, with any kind of medical advice, like, I talked to my doctor and you should talk to your doctor, and every situation is different. But I am still on my SSRI during this pregnancy. And honestly, I talked to my doctor about it. The one that I'm on has a lot of good clinical evidence that it isn't really harmful for pregnancy. I know other people feel differently, but I think what you have to realize is that there is also a risk involved in not taking it, because if you are super anxious and like high stress throughout your entire pregnancy, that's going to affect your health as well. And so I think it's just weighing like, okay, where's my mental health actually at? What symptoms could potentially affect this pregnancy, or even just like your happiness? You want to enjoy your pregnancy, and what are the potential side effects of the medication? So there are a few SSRIs. I know Lexapro is a big one. I forget what the one I'm on is called, but it's not Lexapro. But there are a few that have been studied more than others and don't really seem to have too big of an effect on pregnancy. So talk to your doctor, but remember that your health matters too. Mom guilt is so real, and like it starts early. Like, people start making you feel bad for putting yourself first, or even just like taking care of yourself at all. People start making you feel bad for that really early. But I think in order to be a good mom, you have to take care of yourself. So that's how I personally made that decision. With Rowan, I did the opposite. I felt like my mental health was in a place where I could go off of my medication and it wasn't going to be a huge deal. And I did. So definitely case by case basis, but don't let anybody make you feel bad about your decision, because I'm proud of you for taking care of you. I'm proud of you for taking care of your baby. Those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. I'm so worried about the transition from 1 to 2. How are you feeling about it? Girl, same. I don't really have any advice for you because I am freaking out as well. I guess my advice would be like, you're not alone. We're all in this together, and it is a scary, big life transition. Something that's helping me feel a little bit better is that where your first child requires kind of constant attention and entertainment. The second child has the first child to entertain them a little bit, and I think that that's gonna make it easier because I just know Juniper's gonna think Rowan's the bee's knees and be like laughing at things that he does and mimicking him and copying him, and I think that that'll take a little bit of the pressure off of me. But yeah, motherhood is hard. And I think it's gonna be hard, but I also think it's gonna be awesome. Something to remember is that we rise to the challenge every time. Like, you have overcome 100% of your hardest days if you're here and you're watching this video. And even if it is hard sometimes it's gonna be really, really, really stinking awesome. So I think it's a super valid fear. I'm definitely there with you. Fingers crossed that we get through this together. What should I name baby boy due in June? Okay, here are my top boy baby names. Wilder, Porter, Atlas, Dean, Brewer, Breyer, Knox, Oakley. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Those are the ones that were on our list if this baby would have been a boy. Tips for trying to buy a house. I'm overwhelmed. Dude, this market is absolutely insane. We kind of ended up getting the easy way out because after 3 offers that we got beat out on, we ended up buying this house from a friend. So I don't know like how applicable this advice is gonna be because we did kind of have that like luck out for us. But number 1, pick a real estate agent that is going to push for you and is going to try to find out as much information as possible and really give your home search a lot of attention, because so much of whether or not you get an offer accepted is like knowing what other people's offers are. So pick somebody who's really gonna push for you. I'd also say don't do anything that you're uncomfortable with just to get a home. I know a lot of people right now are waiving inspections, and that's something that we weren't comfortable with doing. And that probably honestly hurt our chances when we were home shopping. But I would rather do that and have the home search take a little bit longer than get into a house, realize there's a major problem, and then end up paying tens of thousands of dollars to have to fix it. And thirdly, make sure you're writing a letter and include a picture and try to speak to the owner as personally as possible. This works best when you're buying a house from like a family and not from somebody who's like flipped it. We tried to target houses that weren't being sold by flippers because we knew they were just gonna take the highest offer basically. But a lot of times when you're trying to buy from a family, and you can tell based on like whether the house is staged or like somebody's still living there, they want the house to be loved and cherished, and I think writing a letter can help with that. Also, I'm sorry that you're trying to buy a house in this market. It freaking sucks. We thought we were buying at like the worst part of the market, and then it's just continued to get worse over the last year. So my heart goes out to you because even a year ago, it was tough. Ugh, this one breaks my heart. I don't know if I want to be married to my husband anymore. It feels like we're always his backup plan and never his first option. I actually have some experience with this, and I talked to Matt about this, and he was totally chill with me talking about this and actually encouraged me to, because having the like talk about priorities was a big thing that we had to figure out in Rowan's first year of life. So I know what it feels like to kind of feel like you're the second choice. For me, for a while after Rowan was born, we were both so burnt out and we were so tired. And we had time where Rowan was sleeping and we could spend time together. A lot of the time, Matt just wanted to go and play video games. And up to a certain point, like, he needs that to recharge. Like, your spouse should have their own hobbies and stuff. And you want to remain your own person. But I was feeling like spending time with me was a chore that he felt like he had to do. Like, he had to put in a certain number of hours of husband duty or whatever. And that didn't feel good, because we all deserve to be prioritized and cherished. And so that was something that we really had to work through. I'll say my biggest advice for this is try to cut your partner a little bit of slack, especially if you're in your baby's first year of life, because that is a huge transitional period and it's really difficult on a lot of couples. But also stand firm in your boundaries and knowing that asking for an involved relationship is not asking too much, and have a conversation about it. I know sometimes it can be scary to sit down and be like, hey, I'm not feeling loved. Like, that's a very vulnerable place to be, but I think you have to kind of go there, and hopefully your partner probably loves you and doesn't want you to feel unloved and may not even realize how their actions are affecting you. Something that Matt and I did really early on in our relationship was like kind of defined how much time we needed together as like a baseline of like, in order to feel good about like how much we're connecting, I need X amount of hours per day or whatever of like quality time. And it was never like a super strict, like, okay, you're on the clock now or whatever. But I was like, I need to spend at least a couple hours with you every day to feel connected and to feel like we're on the same page, because I don't want to just become roommates or co-parents. Like, I want us to be in a relationship and be in love with each other. Hi. Hi. You singing? Hi, baby. I'm talking about prioritizing your spouse in a relationship. Do you have anything you want to add? The person said that they were feeling like they were their husband's second choice.
No.
Obviously, we love that.
We have had that discussion.
Yeah. What do you have to say from the other side of it?
It's very easy when you're in the depths of child and parenting exhaustion to prioritize your self-care first because you're so tired. And I get one of the things I could think of is after 3 years or whatever being married and it being just the two of us, like, you used to spending all of your, like, not all of, but like your other time on one other person, and now there's two other people to split that time with. It takes a definite mindset shift to like not forget about your wife sometimes, because like it can be very easy to take her or him or whoever your partner is for granted, especially when you're so tired and the baby's just taking everything you have. Like, you have to put in effort. You have to keep putting in that effort to maintain and grow and strengthen your relationship. And it starts with an honest conversation from...
That's what I said too.
Yeah, whoever's feeling left out. Like, you have had some tough conversations with me where you're just like, look, it feels like we're not even married anymore because, like, the baby goes down and you go play video games, and then, like, I'll see you in the morning, and then I don't because, like, work and all that stuff. So
what did it... Because you've come a long way in this area. What did it take, or, like, what was the catalyst for the mind shift for you? The mindset shift.
Besides you having a conversation with me, because like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah,
because I didn't know anything was wrong because I had turned my attention so inward on how tired I was and what my needs were, and I forgot.
Introvert, extrovert. Just for reference, that's where this is coming from.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like when you're exhausted at the end of the day, like I recharge by being alone, by being myself, and she doesn't. She wants that quality time. So I gave up some sleep for it. I would hang out with you until you went to bed at 10, and then I would stay up till midnight, playing video games and having that me time, and that worked for me. You have to be intentional about it. It's not just going to happen. Have that conversation, and if you're the one that the conversation is being had with, like, put that effort in. So.
Try not to get too defensive about it. And if you're the person asking for more, like I said, stand firm in the fact that you're not asking for too much.
Yeah, it's...
Like, you are worth it.
Yeah. Okay, can you say night-night?
Night-night.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Can you give that to mommy, please? Say, here, mama.
Thank you. Can I have a kiss night-night?
Give mommy a kiss.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You'll need to hold the home button for 3 seconds and then press A.
Okay. Cool. I'm glad we got both sides of that. Hopefully that made sense. I know it was a little bit long and rambly, but it's a messy subject, so a little bit of a messy response, I guess. I also got a lot of questions asking about how to have the confidence to start your own business or how to get started on social media. And I could do a whole video on this, but I want to address it because I got so many questions about it. So a couple like rapid fire tips are, number one, keep your day job if you have one for as long as possible so that when you are finally making an income off of your business, it's like extra and you're not relying on it and it's not stressing you out and giving you a lot of anxiety that like, if I don't get this many sales or whatever, then we're not going to be able to pay the mortgage. I know that was advice that I did not want when I started, especially when I started making money. But I waited a long time before I dropped all of my other gigs until I was pretty sure that I was consistently going to be able to make enough to contribute what I needed to contribute to our family financially. Another tip is research before you start and try to start off on the right foot. So like for me, with YouTube specifically, I've talked about this before, I started making videos that like honestly nobody would care about. I think my first video was a favorites video. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody cared about my favorite makeup products in May of 2017 or whatever. But over time, I learned about search engine optimization. I learned about how to come up with video ideas that people were searching for. I highly recommend checking out the TubeBuddy channel if you're interested, in YouTube specifically, because they've got a lot of great tips on how to start a channel. And then my other tip is to be in it for the long haul. It took me 4 years to make my business profitable to the point that it was a full-time job. And 3 of those years I was making like nothing. Maybe a couple $100s in a year. But it can take time, and the way that I like to think of it is if I was entering a corporate position and starting as an intern or whatever, and it took me 5 years to work my way up to like an executive level position, it would be like, that's awesome, like great job. So the fact that it took me 5 years to take YouTube from nothing to my full-time job really isn't that bad. And I was able to weather those first couple of years because I was also doing other work. I feel like COVID stole all of the joy of my firsts with my baby. How do you manage? I feel this too. Motherhood has been so different than I thought it would be because of the world that we're living in right now. You know, I was imagining postpartum full of mommy groups and trips to the park and stuff like that, and that was just not the reality of my situation. For me, I try to focus more on the fact that we were so lucky to have had Matt home with us for the first year and a half of Rowan's life. He's about to go back to the office, which makes me very panicky. Not gonna think about it right now. We still have 2 weeks. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade those experiences for having had him home with us. But also, it's totally okay to mourn and to grieve the experience that you thought that you would have. That's super valid. People haven't parented in a locked down world since, what was it, like 1907, when there was the like stay-at-home order for the flu. And so we really are living in unprecedented times, as cliche as it is to say that. And yeah, we didn't get to do a lot of things. Like, I didn't get to have a baby shower. We didn't get to have people come and see us at the hospital. We parented alone in a bubble for the first 9 months, and that was really hard. I hope you can take some comfort in the fact that you're not alone. Like, all of us moms who had pandemic babies all struggled through this together, and it was tough. It's been tough. It's not even over yet. It's still tough. But I hope that there were some moments along the way that maybe you wouldn't have gotten to have if it hadn't been the way that it was. I know I definitely got a lot more like one-on-one time with Rowan at home, undistracted, not distracted, however you would say that. And it doesn't make up for the lost firsts, but at the end of the day, like it's over. Like, his first year is over. And while I can mourn what I wish it had been, I also want to make sure that I'm having gratitude for what it was. How can I feel confident when feeding my son on him not choking? I get so nervous. I also got this question a lot. Number 1, take an infant CPR class before you start baby-led weaning, because it will give you so much confidence that even if your baby starts choking, you will know what to do, and that it is going to be a lot more calm and under control because you feel capable of handling the situation. And number 2, educate yourself on gagging versus choking. Solid Starts is a great resource for this. I think they have like a whole article on their website about this, but basically gagging does not lead to choking, and if your baby is gagging, it's actually good because it means that the reflex that keeps them from choking is working. So gagging is a good sign, even though I know it's kind of scary, and knowing that gives you a little bit of extra confidence, I think. 17 weeks pregnant and do not feel the baby yet. Sometimes that makes me nervous, that's all. Totally normal, especially if it's your first pregnancy. I started feeling Rowan right around 17 weeks, but they were surprised because they said that was really early. Just hang in there a couple more weeks, like 20 to 22, you'll probably be feeling the baby move. But I know in the meantime, it's such a hard wait. How to make mom friends. Social media. Social media is awesome. That's how I make all of my mom friends. Also, if there are any kind of groups in your area, like if you have any kind of mommy exercise group or like a walking group, obviously do only whatever you feel is safe, but like an outdoor walking group is a great way to meet new friends. And also don't be afraid to like go up to people in the grocery store and be like, oh my gosh, I love your baby carrier. Where did you get that? And strike up a conversation. All right, I've been blabbering on for 33 minutes, so I'm going to end this video here so that you guys don't get sick of me. But if you want me to do a part 2, let me know in the comments because I have so many more questions that I would love to answer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you a lot. I am sending so much love your way today, especially if you're dealing with a tough situation, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Bye!